Yes, ladies and gentlemen, hello, 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 and welcome yet again. Yes, yet again, we made it through another week here in New York City in Manhattan. And I'm gonna reach up here and turn off this monitor with what's on air because it's delayed and it gets me confused between what I'm doing and what's really happening. But we're a live dial-in show. You can see our blog here, Blogspot, WRM for What Really Matters, NYC.blogspot.com. We're live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. If you leave a comment on our blog, you could possibly win randomly this beautiful mug of our show, so watch for that during the show. And we talk about stuff that goes on in Manhattan every week, and we take your calls. There's the dial-in number. And we're going to talk, this week we have a guest on the live line. His name is Alan St. Pierre. Alan, are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. And everyone who doesn't know Alan, I'll ask him to introduce himself. And we also got the weather dude on the line who's going to do the weather in a bit. But let's start with Alan. If you could introduce yourself real quick, and I'll get to the reason why you're a guest here tonight.
Much to my mother's chagrin, I'm the executive director of an acronymed organization known as NORML, N-O-R-M-L.
And what does NORML stand for?
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
All right, and now the reason that we're talking is because we've had this is our third live show this season, and the first one is about Trayvon Martin, and then the second one's about Ramarley Graham, but mostly the theme, and Stop and Frisk, and the theme that kind of ran through all of them is little bags of marijuana. Not necessarily in Trayvon's case, but they kind of cited that in a school issue that he had. And, you know, what happened also in the news this week is, actually last week, is Mayor Bloomberg. He came back from Singapore, and he suggested Monday that American lawmakers might have a thing or two to learn from nations like Singapore, where drug dealers can be executed for their crimes. And he suggested that rather than legalize marijuana, he said to think about the number of people who die from drug use here in this country, and yet we don't take it serious enough to dissuade people. In Singapore, he said, executing a handful of people saves thousands and thousands of lives. And of course, sort of Stop and Frisk was in the news also. Commissioner Kelly was asking the city council, you know, well, what would you do instead of Stop and Frisk? And of course, we were going to have a gentleman about Stop and Frisk because the majority of the folks that are stopped for marijuana, and then they get on their record and they can't get employed. And then even Pat Robertson jumped in the fray, and he said that marijuana should be legal. So I wanted to ask you, Alan, where are we? And I know that we're moving a little forward in this city on marijuana, but it seems sort of at the root of a lot of stuff. And I'm wondering what your view is.
Well, in America, there are 850,000 marijuana arrests every year, 90% of them for possession only.
You got to turn your radio off in the background. Sorry about that. Turn your TV off in the background.
Yes. So every year in America, 850,000 Americans are arrested on marijuana charges. That's one person every 38 seconds. So having marijuana prohibition creates the impetus, the nexus, the opportunity for police to interface with citizens in a way they really should have no communication with. The only time that we deal with people, for example, the great analogy here would be alcohol. When you deal with somebody regarding alcohol, it's whether they've misused it or abused it, or they're not legally able to use it. And so there's a clear distinction between the abuse of alcohol and the use of it. Mayor Bloomberg is a blooming fool to make no distinction beyond the fact that marijuana is a non-toxic, non-addictive, you cannot overdose on it, and he's making a comparison to a country that brutally has no due process and kills people as symbolism to deter people from something that, well, frankly, did Mr. Bloomberg take the opportunity to figure out what the drug rates are in Singapore? Are they really that much different than they are in New York? So to have this elitist say that we should kill people who sell drugs in a city that has 14,000 bars and sells tobacco at $9 to $10 a pack.
Well, he didn't say that, to be fair to the mayor. He didn't quite say that. He was quoting, he's saying that's what they do there. He didn't say we should do it here.
Well, no, the fact that he brought it up is clear that he just wants it known that there's alternatives.
Yeah.
And this speaks to his zealotry about trying to dictate the way that other people live their lives regarding what food they eat, what products they put in their body. So, you know, in the same way that he's given a lot of his fortune away to the Johns Hopkins School, the Bloomberg School, of course, of public health. So clearly he's a public health nut job, but he's also a hypocrite as a former marijuana smoker. So if he wants to line up and have his former marijuana dealer shot as symbolism, he can be the first one to offer that up.
Alan, let me ask you something, though, about what I was trying to get to the thread of this topic, is that the stopping kids and stopping frisks for basically busting a lot of them. I mean, if they find the angel dust, all this other stuff, that's great. But busting kids for, you know, small amounts of marijuana, which I think is a light crime here, but it gets on their record and they can't find a job and stuff like that and it gives, I believe, the step forward, the impetus of police and other people who mimic them, like, for example, the Mr. Zimmerman, or even the untrained guy who went into Ramarley Graham's bathroom, his grandma's bathroom. You know, they're sort of taking a step forward based on me, I believe, that presumption that they can, based on that illegality of this substance, which is, you know, predominantly everywhere in Manhattan.
Yeah, no, it's, again, marijuana is ubiquitous after 74 years. 74 years of federal prohibition. It's been illegal in New York State for 90 years.
Was there some movement in the city council last week, Alan, on this?
What's that?
Was there some movement in the New York City Council last week? I think someone introduced legislation for medical marijuana.
Yes, New York is really advancing nothing at this point, at the state or really at the borough level. There's a threat of vetoes from a governor who doesn't really get medical marijuana and has acknowledged such.
Yeah, but last week the resolution was sponsored by Danny Dromm. Danny Dromm, D-R-O-M-M, passed a resolution calling on the state legislature to pass 2 bills to legalize marijuana pot use.
Yes, well, calling for them to legalize it and actually drafting the bill to do it are two entirely different things. So,
all right.
No, it's New York has had marijuana decriminalized since 1978. All the mayor and the police have to do is actually enforce the law. It's kind of embarrassing that Schenectady and Buffalo and Ithaca and all these other upstate towns just fine people $100 and send them on their way. But New York still arrests people, incarcerates them for a day, and in some cases even draws their DNA and puts it in the DNA bank just for a simple marijuana arrest.
Alan, I want to thank you. We're going to let you go now. Weather Dude, you got a question? Weather Dude?
No, I don't, but I think marijuana should be legalized.
Okay, you got to speak up. We really can't hear you. Well, listen, Alan, we're going to let you go so we can get the weather and then we can move on to the calls here. But I thank you for your point of view and for helping us understand where we are in New York City.
Thanks. We'll be in touch. And like the weatherman says, legalize it.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Okay, cheers.